remember specifically like one night, it was cold, and you know those like old floodlights that you can feel the heat coming off them? It was late night. It was like probably early fall or something like that. Me and my brothers and my cousins were just like sitting by the light trying to get warm. And so I just have a few of those memories that, like, looking back, I liked that. I liked being on the job site, and it was just cool.
In this episode of the Nailed It podcast, we dive into the journey of entrepreneurship and personal growth with Chandler Gee. From being a wannabe cowboy to midnight job site rescues with his wife, Chandler shares stories that highlight the grit, determination, and evolution of his version of success over years of running his business. Join us as we explore Chandler's unique path, the lessons he's learned, and the values that drive his success today. Don't forget to follow us and let us know your favorite moment in the comments. Okay, Chandler, hey, thanks for coming out today. We're super excited to have you. Maybe let's start by telling us a little bit about yourself and maybe something that people might be just surprised to learn about you.
I'm a wannabe cowboy, and I ride mules.
Tell me the difference between a mule and a cowboy,
Okay.
a mule and a horse, because I know we've talked a little bit about it, but they're sure-footed.
Yeah.
Anyway, for people who don't know.
So it's funny because no one knows what a mule is. They think a mule and a donkey are the same thing.
Right.
So horses are strong, right? Just what everyone likes to ride, everything. A mule is actually the mixture of a horse and a donkey.
Okay.
But it has to be, the mom has to be the horse, and the dad has to be the donkey. If it's switched, it's not a mule. It's called a henny. It's just kind of the way that chromosomes.
They do their thing.
Yeah, exactly. And so when it comes out, if you get a mule, it gets like more of the size and strength of the horse.
Okay.
And sure-footedness, so smaller hoofs, like a donkey. So we like to climb rocks and go up in the mountains. So it's a little bit better. And then a henny comes out being more like a donkey, smaller. Okay. Not really able to ride. They're just kind of donkeys. So.
And mules are good for packing. They can carry more weight.
I mean, yeah. I don't know about packing more weight, but they're just more sure-footed, right? So with the balance, because you have to really, you're like packing, you have to know how to balance that out, right? On one side, and then they can just catch their weight and balance better.
Do it.
Yeah,
interesting.
I'd like to get more into like backpacking it or packing in with the mules, but it's a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean,
no time, we're working.
Pack the food, pack water, it's a whole thing. Yeah. So, did you grow up riding?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is something you and your brothers and your dad did, and
yeah. So it's funny. My wife and I got like this little conversation a couple weeks ago. She's like, "Yeah, you're a pretty city boy." And I was like, "Don't call me a city boy." It's like, I know I am, but I don't want to be a city boy.
Yeah.
So my dad grew up South Salt Lake, and we grew up, I guess, 20 minutes from South Salt Lake, and to him, it was like the boonies. Right? It was way far out there. So when he moved out there, it was farm country, and so he was excited. And within like a couple of years of them building their house, it just took over all the development. So we have like this one little pocket of a whole bunch of like farmland, and like in between, like my friends didn't understand at all why we'd want to ride mules and do all that. So I think I started riding at like 7 or 8.
Okay.
I got a 6-year-old boy now I'm trying to get riding. So
nice.
Trying to pass on the tradition.
So you have one donkey, 2 donkeys, you just have, mule.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
It's offensive right there.
Yeah. Hey, I remember you telling me something like, you have this like shelter for, your mule, but it like in the snowstorm goes and stands outside.
They don't care,
it wants
man.
to be outside.
Yeah. It's like, it'd be just like, come down, snow, rain. They don't care. They just
even if it's hailing, like pellets, will they go?
Maybe pellets, just because that'll hurt.
Yeah.
Right. Still get undercover, but rain, snow, it doesn't matter.
There's I just love it.
Yeah. It's actually, I think they'd prefer that over even the sun. Like in the summertime, they'll actually go underneath to get out of, get out of the shade.
Heat. Yeah.
Yeah. But the snow, rain, they don't care.
That makes sense. Well, hey, sorry about the detour there, the mule chat, but tell me a little bit about how you got into construction. I mean, I know, your dad's been in construction, your mom's kind of in the real estate space. Talk to me kind of what childhood was like and how that steered you to, wanting to go into construction and own your own business.
So yeah, my mom's a realtor. She's been a realtor for almost 30 years. My dad owns a flooring business, and him and my uncle actually started it together, and then my uncle got his GC license and started building. And so just growing up, my dad was always doing projects, and he learned from his dad, who my grandpa wasn't like a licensed general contractor, but he'd spec houses.
Okay.
So he'd be building a house year, 2 years, whatever, kind of side gig hobby. And then once that was finished, they move into it and then sell the other house.
Okay.
So yeah, my grandpa was like a really good craftsman, like really particular, all of his cuts, just perfect. And so I actually grew up young. He was building a cabin in like my early years. I don't remember a whole lot of it. And then a few things happened. He ended up getting rid of that cabin, and then he built another house. And we would go there at nights because my dad and my uncle were helping him.
Yeah.
And I remember specifically like one night it was cold, and those like old floodlights that you can feel the heat coming off of.
Yeah. Yep.
It was late night. It was like probably early fall or something like that. Me and my brothers and my cousins were just like sitting by the light trying to get warm.
The lights that start fires. The
yeah,
fly
yeah,
lands
exactly.
on it, and the fly's stuck to it because it's
no LED lights, right?
Yep.
And so I just have a few of those memories that, like, looking back, I liked that. I liked being on the job site, and it was just cool. Every Saturday morning, wake up, my dad would always be on a project around our house or a yard. So I think from an early age, I took to that. And I kind of liked doing hard work, sweating. Anyway, so that's kind of like the construction side. As far as business, I kind of seen the progression of my mom as an entrepreneur as well. She'd have us do like all these random things for open houses. Like she'd pay us, $30 or something in an afternoon to go like do like the sign flipping or whatever. Like on the side of the road.
Stand on the corner for an open house. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm way different from the rest of my family. Take after my mom. I can be pretty goofball, so I just would love it, right? I'd get all the cars honking. And they'd go to the open house, not because they're looking for a house, but they're like, well, I saw, this guy who's dancing or doing something funny. So anyways, I've seen my mom do things like that like intrigue me to see the business grow.
Yeah.
So I think a combination of like the construction, it's like just in my blood, and then being an entrepreneur, building something, being part of a team and wanting that to grow, is kind of what landed me to start my own business.
Yeah. And your dad runs a flooring company.
Yeah.
And did he run that your entire childhood? When did that start, when you were a little bit older? Because I'm sure you spent time, at some point maybe laying some floors, sanding, tearing something out. Maybe it was at your own house.
Yeah, he's owned it my whole life, so I don't know anything different of my dad doing anything else. So actually, more than like the labor part, I remember going to like bids with him, right?
Oh yeah.
We'd be like afternoons or whatever in the summer, we'd just be sitting in the car, and he'd be going measuring houses or floors, and then come back, and we'd always kind of ask him. It was pretty fun to have that experience, be able to go with your dad during the day.
Yeah, I mean, I think, my dad, he was a computer guy, and so I was always working, he was always in an office, and I remember always wanting to go to the office. He'd take us in on Saturdays, and so I think it's fun.
Yeah.
And I don't know that kids today are doing that as much, but I always remember thinking like, oh, hey, I want to go and spend time with my dad, right? And if that meant going to work, that was like cool, right? My dad usually get like, because he's working in an office, he usually get the Dr. Pepper out of the Coke machine, and,
give you a Dr. Pepper.
Yeah. And so you guys are hanging out in the car, he's inside measuring, and
so my dad used to have a shop downtown Salt Lake.
Okay.
Really cool spot actually. But he had a warehouse and he had a forklift.
By
the Smith's ballpark.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, where the bees used to play. I'm like, remember this as we're talking. It was cool because we'd go there, he'd have this whiteboard. We'd be sitting for hours, kind of bored a little bit, and we'd be drawing on it, playing with it. And at the end of the day, it'd always be like, well, if you guys are good, I'll take you on a ride in the forklift. Those forklifts, right? They can turn, like you're almost doing wheelies. And so I remember that too. It's like this big warehouse, all this wood and stuff. It was just cool seeing my dad had that.
Yeah.
Being a kid, you don't understand all the stress, obviously, that goes behind it. But yeah, that was a cool experience. He had this it was old house, and so it was like a basement that they like dug out. It's like kind of crawl space turned to basement, And me and my brothers would always like, I dare you to go in the basement. Spiders everywhere.
Go down there,
yeah.
go down
You
there.
won't go down there. You won't be down there for more than 30 seconds. And we'd see who'd go down there last the longest. And those are fun memories.
Yeah. I mean, I think those types of things help, like you were saying, mold your life, like shape you into obviously who you've become today. You saw obviously your parents work, I'm sure into the evening sometimes, taking care of maybe there was a problem or an issue. A client wants to walk through a home late at night. How do you think, your parents, because I think all business owners struggle with this, right? Work-life balance.
Yeah.
And what do you think your parents did, and what is something that you're doing that maybe emulates things that they've done, or you've taken maybe some shortcomings and you've improved those? But what are kind of some of those things that you've done to balance that and that you saw your parents do?
Yeah, great question. I'll say one thing that stuck out to me is that they always made time to get to like my sporting events or, Boy Scouts. I was in Boy Scouts. They'd always be at those events. And so I really enjoyed that they made that time. But then there were sacrifices, right? If it was 3 o'clock when my game started, 3 to 5, there'd be work after that.
Right.
They'd have to go finish up or whatever. My mom, I guess from maybe age 10 on, I remember most Saturdays she's out grinding doing open houses. So she's gone most Saturdays, at least in the afternoons. So that work ethic is like engraved in me. And I like to work hard, and I'm also trying to not do that as much, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Cause I definitely think there's a balance, and I don't think that they did it right or wrong. I think they did it more right. But I guess my biggest point is trying to like find the good moments. Cause I've got 3 kids.
Yeah.
I got a 6-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 18-month-old.
Okay.
The 6-year-old's at that point. He's starting to, he knows if I'm gone, what I'm doing. And, it really means a lot to him, that time that I spend with him. So I guess it's more about picking and choosing those specific times of when I'm with my kids.
And making those times count.
Yeah, right. I mean, to be candid, you never get away from work, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you get clients calling, texting at 10 o'clock at night. And, my wife comes from a family, they aren't business owners. And so to them, it's
9 to 5.
Yeah, turn the phone off, don't answer it. And there is some right to that if you want to have a good life.
Yeah.
But your clients, most time in construction, they also have a 9 to 5.
Right.
And they can't be answering all your questions or seeing everything until they get home. So that's one of the most pivotal times to meet with them or talk with them, is they're actually in front of the product you're providing for them. So you got to just make that sacrifice. And this may be going off kind of on this topic a little bit, so I apologize.
No, you're good.
It's funny, my youngest, or my oldest, like, he was a baby when I was just getting started, and it was just side job after side job. And man, that kid, he didn't go to bed till midnight most nights, because, my wife likes spending time with me, and so she'd want to come on the jobs, and she was actually kind of cool, like, would love getting dirty and helping
help
me
out. And
so my son, just from an early age, he just knows that's just what we do.
Yeah.
He has like the little toy
tools.
hammers
and the toy saw.
He's like hitting the walls. I'm like, no, we don't hit interior walls. So yeah, man, it's just trying to find that balance, but also, like, I think looking back at my dad, I think I'm more proud of my dad than my dad is of himself. And I can see, like, my son, he's proud, like, can say my company name, Bighorn Construction.
Yeah.
He's like, Bighorn Construction, that's our company. It's pretty cool to see that.
Yeah.
Right? He's proud of it too. So it's fun to see that.
Like, hey, like he's a part of it. Like, hey, this is my dad.
Yeah.
Like when it's, show and tell, bring your dad to work or to school day or whatnot. He's like, yeah, my dad's in construction.
Yeah. He's in kindergarten, and, they have all these fun days, and it was like, wear a hat to school day, 'cause you're not allowed to wear hats in school. and I have this little Bighorn construction hat, and that's the hat he chose to pick to wear. Yeah. So that was cool. It was a proud moment.
Yeah, that is fun. That is fun. So you have 3 kids. You and your wife, how long have you guys been married?
7 years.
7 years. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was good. I mean, I'm glad we got that one.
I was going to say 7.5. I'm like, yeah, 7 years. 7 going on 8.
We needed an exact day count right now. No. And I mean, I think when I talk to a lot of business owners, there always seems to be a common thread. There's a spouse that kind of supports their vision, supports their dream. You talked about your wife being on the job site with you. How important was that to you to have that like support, right? Obviously, she loves you, but to have that like physical presence there late at night, helping you out, whether it's sweeping up or laying boards, like what has that meant to you?
I couldn't have done it without her, to be honest with you. I mean, most small business owners, right? The wife or girlfriend or whatever ends up kind of doing the office stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Helps you out, write some checks and do those things. And she did. She's a lot smarter as far as tech goes. So she set up a lot of my systems, which is cool. More just the mental part of it. You just have someone else that's there to like encourage you and sees the vision.
Yeah.
Some of those days, right? And a lot of times you're just hearing negative after negative. You always hear the negative. You don't hear the positive, right? It's like, I just built this amazing thing and you're pointing out, the one little nick.
Yep. All the flaws. That's basically like, hey,
yeah, which is fine as a homeowner. You understand that, right? You're paying money. So you want a good product. So just having her like mentally as well, just be like, you can do it. We've got this, and understand it's not short term. And I don't think anything that is worthwhile should be looked at short term. It's all long term, right? So, I mean, I can look back. We started our business 4.5 years ago. The point we're at now compared to 4.5 years ago is like, we're starting to see a little bit of those fruits, right, coming. So I'd say most, there's obviously struggles working with your wife as well. But there were way more positives, and just having her as that mental support to keep me up and excited to go to work the next day.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely think the family, the wife, like they provide that extra oomph when the gas tank is empty, right? Because I do know for me, and I'm sure for you, there's days where you kind of just feel like I'm on this island. I'm all by myself. I don't really know, I don't really know who to call or who to lean on it, right? I mean, the family is great to, to provide that backbone and support. I know you talked a little bit in different conversations. You played sports in high school. Tell me a little bit how you think sports helped you out to where you are today with maybe work ethic or being part of a team, being a team player. Maybe let's talk about some of those things briefly.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed being a part of a team, right? I mean, like you talk about youth sports. So some like moments you just create, it's like as a kid, it's like going to war, right? I mean, you really think when you're in 4th grade, you're going up against the team you hate, right?
Yeah.
You're going to
arch
war
enemy.
With, yeah. And so some of my best friends, we don't talk a whole lot, but when we do, we just have that bond. So I've always enjoyed that part of it, is like sweating, bleeding with like your brothers. So as far as like my desire to like build a team, that's I think where it comes from, is like just working with people that want to work hard, want to bleed, sweat, cry together, but then like have the same goal, just want success. So just growing up sports, that's really taught me the team aspect. I always remember my dad would always tell me, like, during conditioning, you got to be first. You got to be first. And I wasn't like the fastest, but I would always try.
Yeah.
And when I was a sophomore in high school, I was pretty like small, undersized. I wanted to play varsity, and I just had a lot of like good talent above me. Like the seniors were super good, but I just told myself in conditioning, I was like, I'm going to beat them.
You're going to be the Rudy.
Yeah.
You're going to be the Rudy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I remember like one morning we did conditioning to open up, which was cool, but it was like, 6:15, kind of still dark. And I beat these seniors like 2 sprints in a row. And the coach like stopped practice, or maybe it wasn't stop practice, but he like made a point. He's like, Gee is beating you guys. You know, he's going to get some playing time. And he made a point, like, I think I got a few runs in varsity practice that day and stuff like that. So I'd say that mentality of my dad saying, like, you gotta be first. It's taught me that it pays off, but like also it's giving me that competitive drive of like, I gotta try to be first, and whatever it takes. Like, if I'm not fast, like I'll find another way, you know. They're going to be tired, maybe take the first couple sprints easy. Well, I'm going to beat them then. Yeah. Make a point. So
yeah, when they're tired, I'm going to there's, you know, the long game here. At some point I'm going to beat you.
So I played basketball and football in high school, and I was like pretty fortunate to play with a lot of good athletes that went on, played after high school, and some succeeded after high school, some didn't. And I'd say looking back, I didn't know at the time, but looking back now, just how to conduct yourself. You know, some of these guys, I mean, some of them are making millions, you know, in pro sports right now. Some of them could have been, and maybe decided to take some wrong choices, took like, you know, high school fame too serious. Yeah. And that actually has had a big impact on me of knowing who I am and not overdoing it, if that makes sense.
Not trying to be something that you're not.
Yeah, right. I mean, fame is only what it is. Right?
It's fleeting. Right?
Well, yeah, right. I mean, that doesn't really give you the satisfaction that you really need. And so just looking back, seeing the differences in basketball, football, some of those people that are playing after high school, like seeing how they acted and seeing how I acted, not saying like I'm something special, but you know, I feel good about where I'm at in life. Yeah. The direction I'm going.
No, I think that's super important. I think sports and being part of a team, that competitiveness, it you know, for me personally, it's always like, hey, I did this, I can do a little bit better. Yeah. I can do a little bit better. I can do, and always trying to improve, right? Yeah. I think that's probably the message your dad's trying to send is like, you know, be first, right? Yeah. And if you can't be first, give it your damnedest to try to be first. Yeah, exactly. Right? And if you're not first, then try again, right? It's like, oh, I didn't get in first, I'm going to give up, right? I think there's a book, it talks about grit. And I think sports and being part of a team helps build some of that grit character. Mm-hmm. So kind of as we start to wrap up a few things here, tell me something that you feel like you've seen either homeowners kind of make a big mistake or undervalue something, and or other contractors, right? Maybe you've come in behind another contractor. What's kind of maybe a common mistake that you see people make?
I think expectations are where a lot of failures in contractors happen as far as setting expectations.
Agreed. And
with the homeowners, because I started out doing the worst jobs. Like the jobs no contractor that's really making money wants to do, right? Yeah. Because, you know, there's not a ton of money in it and they're just dirty and everything. So I kind of hated it, but now looking back, I'm grateful that I've gone through some of those. But expectations as far as, you know, a homeowner's going to see a picture in a magazine or Pinterest, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, you know. They're going to see a kitchen that they love, and that's what they want. Well, they only have certain budgets, right? I mean, yeah. Everyone wishes we could afford everything. So if they hire a contractor and say, hey, this is what I want, well, the contractor may say, well, yeah, I can do that. Well, his expectations are, I'm going to do my best to make it look like that, but it's
in the constraints of your budget, it's never going to look like that, maybe.
Right? And instead of walking through kind of step by step with those homeowners, okay, listen, we have a budget, which is great. We all have budgets. This is what it's going to look like with this budget. Or we can spend our money in, you know, take a conversation, this kitchen, right? Let's spend some extra money on some great hardware because it's not a massive amount, right? Yeah. I just see a lot of homeowners put too much trust in the contractor that their expectations are going to be met. Right. I'd say that's kind of the thing I've taken over the last 4.5 years of doing this by myself is trying to meet those expectations best I can while being honest, you know?
Yeah. I think honesty is I don't think contractors are out there lying per se, but I also, to your point, the communication, right? I always say to clients, I say, look, if you're looking at it in a magazine, what you're not seeing is there's a contractor who built that, a designer who designed it, who's put all the furniture in there, a stylist who's come in there, and a professional photographer.
Yeah.
Right? There's all these people. And so I always say, if you want it to look like it belongs in a magazine, these are the people we need to hire.
Yeah.
Right? The designers will work with a stylist. Because, I say, I can build a beautiful box.
Yeah.
Because really, when it's empty, it's kind of like, oh, there's not really a lot in there.
Sure. Yeah.
It's the designers who kind of like bring that to life.
Yeah.
And so to your point, I think that is definitely a shortcoming of a lot of contractors, is conveying that and having really good expectation, or managing that expectation, and communicating a good, like, hey, if we want that, it's going to cost this. If this is where we're at, we're going to do everything we can, but there's going to be some concessions that have to be made.
Yeah, 100%. It goes with it. You brought it up a few times, and there's the communication. I think any type of business, whether you're sales, whether you're an office job selling tech or working on tech, contractor, real estate agent, it's all about the communication.
Really it is.
And most contractors aren't great communicators. And something I've also seen is having that good communication, even when maybe there were some miscommunication or maybe misexpectations, through open communication of like, hey, I'm sorry, maybe it's my fault. I messed up on this, or this happened because, X amount of things happen. Every time I've been just honest with the homeowners, they've understood. I mean,
right.
Sure, having those hard conversations always sting in the moment, but I've had a bunch of clients, like I had one sit down with a client, there were some things that happened, some frustrations, but when we sat down face to face to go over the project, they looked me in the eye and said, we just appreciate how honest you've been with us, and we're really happy with you, making it right. And that's what makes the difference.
For sure. Because really, at the end of the day, it's like you want your client to walk away, be happy.
Yeah.
So then they tell their friend or their neighbor, or they're like,
best form of business, word of mouth.
Yeah, we had a great experience with our contractor. The last thing you want is like, oh yeah, we hated our contractor, terrible, lied, stole money, So if you had to define success today, how would you define that? And how has that changed over, say, the last, 5 years that you've been running your company?
Yeah, so I think success means something different to everybody. I have a few friends we've had these conversations. For me personally, I think it's defined on like a legacy of what you leave behind. So if I disappear, what are my neighbors, my family, those around me directly, what are they going to think of me, right?
Yeah.
Was I honest? Was I hardworking? Was I just a good person?
Did you help other people?
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And to me, I think that's what success is if you leave that legacy that you'd be proud of, right? And that's kind of a broad, I guess, definition for me, but it's the only way I can describe it, because I can say, yeah, success is making X amount of money. But I've learned over the last year or so that it's not necessarily the money that brings you happiness. It's what's fulfilling you, right?
Yeah. Do you enjoy what you're doing?
Exactly. And so, I mean, you have billionaires that all the money in the world, they're not
miserable.
Happy. They don't even they can't even smile really. They're just trying to find it, spending their money other ways. So, I guess for me, if I had to wrap it up in a bottle, I'd say knowing that I'm doing all I can to be a good husband, father to my kids, brother, son, and that leaving that legacy, they know that Chandler he's done all he can to be a good person. Yeah.
And I've known you now for a while, and I think that, my personal opinion of you, I think you're a great person. I've seen you make sacrifices to go spend time with the kids, and I think you've done a good job taking that kind of approach of success and applying it to your business. obviously I don't specifically know clients, but we've worked closely together on a handful of different projects. And people like you. They feel like, hey, Chandler's great. He's like you said, he's always honest. And, and I think people recognize that.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I think all of us are salesmen to some extent,
Sure.
right? When I meet with a client, I'm selling myself. When you meet with a client, you're selling yourself, right? And because obviously they're hiring Bighorn, but you are Bighorn.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And so obviously as business grows and there's additional employees and things like that, it becomes more they're hiring a company, but still it's that individual that they're meeting with, that project manager, that owner, that superintendent that they're essentially buying off onto. Like, I'm hiring this company and this individual.
Correct. Yeah.
To take care of me and my needs.
Yeah. So when I have my employees, when they wear the Bighorn swag, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you're saying, they're representing essentially me. And I had this experience a couple months ago. I get this picture from, a subcontractor that, it wasn't a huge deal, but it's like 1 a.m. They're at the bar. He's wearing my hat, and he's like, jokingly like, oh yeah, we're promoting your company. And no, they didn't get into any trouble, but that's not necessarily what I'm expecting, right? Of what I want. And so that was kind of like a learning experience. Like, okay, I got to treat this different because, if something did happen, they're wearing my logo.
Next thing you know, it's 5:00 news. Like, all these guys got in an accident, got altercation, and there's
I'm just drug into it, just because he's got my hat on. So yeah, it's hard when you know that you have to be on the top of your game all the time. Because you're never going to make everyone happy. That's just, part of life. But I think kind of going back to having, someone next to me that's pushing me, like my wife, giving me those like compliments of, hey, no, you're doing good and everything like that. Then I can help feel, okay, I really am trying my best. Let's help my employees, the subcontractors we choose to use, help them be just as honest in everything that they do. And, then that legacy goes down of, if a client, we do a house, we're leaving a legacy, essentially. Right? I mean, that's going to run with you the rest of your life, right? I mean, your work is always there. 20 years when they're doing another remodel, building a house, like you want them to be like, oh man, these guys, they built this house with integrity. They did it right.
They did a good job. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, kind of closing up and really appreciate your definition of success, because I think that really hits the nail on the head for I think what a lot of people want to achieve. I think a lot of us have this kind of monetary, well, when I get to this point, right? And it's kind of like something that they're chasing, right? The carrot's always in front of the horse, right? Because like the horse is never going to get the carrot, right?
Yeah.
Or mule, we'll say mule.
Yeah, there you go.
But I think helping our subcontractors kind of rise to the occasion, especially in an industry where we're short-staffed. It's I don't know anybody in construction that's not busy, that's not overworked, that isn't working evenings and weekends and to try to deliver for, their contractors, their clients. And I think helping them, rise to that level of expectation and work as a member of the team pays tribute to you as a contractor and good contractors in the industry. And so we appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to come down here and shed some light on us and tell us a little bit about Mules.
That's right.
I need to like
get on a mule.
Yeah, is there like a mule rental? Like I can go rent a mule and I can go on a ride with you. Or
my dad doesn't live very far from here.
Maybe I can borrow your dad's mule because it is something that I think I'd enjoy.
It's cool. It's a good way. Living here in Utah, it's cool to go see the mountains.
Yeah.
A little bit lazier, you're not hiking and everything, but it's just cool. You can get up a lot of different places faster than you can hiking, right? And it's cool. But I appreciate you having me on. I think you're doing it right, and I've learned a lot from you. And there's
thanks.
A lot that I'm trying to take from you and the way you're doing it, because I think you're pretty good at what you do.
Excellent. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it, and we're gonna have to get out there in the spring for a mule ride.
Let's do it.
So thanks, man.
Yeah, of course.